Okay, great. Nice to meet you. Look forward to the chat. And I'm all ears. I guess your message was a little scant. If you want to just sort of tell me about what the issues are, we can take it from there.
Well, there's two things, or as I said there, maybe it's one thing. I don't know. The more immediate pressing thing for me, which has been a problem for some time, is I've been dealing with insomnia for a while now, and I remember you talking about you mentioned a few times that you dealt with that, and you know medical interventions didn't seem to be working, and you realized it was because you needed to rearrange your life, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
technically, I didn't take any medical interventions, but I didn't take sleeping pills or anything. But yeah, it certainly was true that I needed to sort out my life. So go ahead.
um, and the other thing, which this makes me feel kind of foolish because I only kind of recognized this sometime in the past couple of years, and I'm in my mid 40s. But uh, I realized recently that like my parents didn't really didn't really give me any advice, any instruction about so many things, like how to make friends, how to deal with girls, what how you build a career. um and like I said, I'm in my mid 40s, and like when you're a little kid, like you don't have anyone to compare it to, so unless there's like obvious abuse, you're just like, I don't know, this is what families are. And so like, looking back, I'm like, oh, that's what they're kind of supposed to do. And I'm looking at, I have kids and I want to do better, but I don't know how to hand on what I didn't get, if that makes sense.
It does. Just tell me what you mean by you don't have anything to compare it to. Because, I mean, there are other kids around with good social skills and in the environment. Of course, I mean, we only really know our own parents, although there are other kids, of course. I don't know if you had relatives or spent much time around other kids' houses or parents, but there's a lot of stuff that's going on that gives you some sense of comparison, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess maybe I just wasn't particularly observant. I didn't really see enough of the inside of other people's lives to realize, like I said, it wasn't, physical abuse. It wasn't like I'm not eating. It's just, I don't have, I should, you know, I should be getting something here that's not there. And I didn't realize like, oh, this is something they're supposed to be doing. Um,
Okay, well, so
and
this is it's description rather than detail. So if you can tell me a little bit about your childhood and what did or didn't happen with your parents. I just have your report in it rather than the facts, if that makes sense. And so I'd like to know a bit more about what actually happened.
um, I guess like the first thing I noticed was the first thing that like struck me as like this is a problem. I never really got like quote unquote the talk about sex from my dad. Um, and like I said, I have kids, and my oldest is about that age. And other than the simple physical facts, I don't know what that talk is supposed to look like. Um, and um, like I remember when I was
You're
in
kind of really
sixth.
struggling in your communication here, right?
I
I mean, it's like, and uh, I like this like it's like we're pushing through hardening jello to get the conversation across. How do you feel about the conversation? Sorry, how do you feel about talking about this kind of stuff?
I guess I'm I guess I'm scared, and I just don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. And
Well, if you didn't know where it was going to go, you'd be curious to explore it. I don't think that's an accurate statement. I'm not obviously saying you're lying, but I don't think it's accurate, right? Like if you didn't know where it was going to go, then you wouldn't have, you'd have some curiosity, right? It's not that you don't know where it's going to go. It's you're afraid that it's going to go to something that would be highly negative, your relationship with your parents.
yeah, I think that's part of it.
Okay.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
it's also one thing complicating this is my mother died a few years ago, and my dad is in his early 80s, and he's not entirely himself
Okay,
anymore.
so
And
this is
so like
part of what I'm talking about. You say he's in his early 80s, and he's not like there's this pause. It's going to be we can have a 19-hour conversation, right? And I'm just curious what the pause is. Are you self-censoring? Do you not know how to talk in any kind of reasonably rapid pace, or what do you think is going on? Because I can't imagine that you have these pauses in general, right? Because I mean, people around you would go slowly insane, right?
I guess find I'm trying to find the right words. I'm trying
Okay,
to
so what do you mean by trying to find the right words? This is not an exam. You're not in court. I mean, if I'm just asking for the truth, how is the truth so delayed? So when people delay that much, my strong sense, I could be wrong, obviously, right? But my strong sense is that they are trying to come up with words very carefully chosen that don't convey too much. And that's not the kind of conversation that I think we should be having, if that makes sense.
okay. I'm I'm not trying to do that. It,
Okay, now so there's another thing. Did I accuse you of anything conscious?
no.
Okay, let me ask you this. How long have you been listening to what I do?
About 10 years, not like sometimes in that more than others. So like
Well,
not every
by
episode,
definition,
but
right? It's not like you have exactly the same amount every day. Okay, so you said, how long ago was it that you began to think that your childhood might have been a problem?
some parts of it for a while, and I've really just come to put together like the complete lack of some things I guess the past couple of years.
And was there a particular moment or a particular show that you were listening to that you think gave you that sense that things might not be optimal?
Um, I don't know. I don't. I think for me, part of it is looking at my own kids and like realizing these are things I'm supposed to do for them, and then like I don't know. I don't have a model for that. I don't know what I'm supposed to do for them because I never had it done.
Well,
Um,
no, that's causal, right? That's not causal. I mean, I did not have rationality and empathy and love modeled for me, but I did it with my daughter. So it's not because you lacked something doesn't mean because you lacked something as a child in no way means that you then lack that thing as a father. In fact, it could compel you or impel you to go quite the opposite way, right? If you're hungry, what do? Well, you go and eat something. If you're thirsty, you go drink something. So if you're missing something, you go and get it, right?
yeah.
So, but you said I couldn't do it for my sons because it wasn't modeled for me, and that's not true. Otherwise, I would have no show. Like, I wouldn't do shows.
Okay.
And the fact that you think it's causal after listening to me for 10 years and are trying to sell to me that it's causal is interesting, right? Because it's very much against everything that I talk about. It certainly is against free will and learning and so on. So if 10 years ago you began to listen to a guy who talks about rational, objective, and moral evaluations of your childhood, and none of this is critical. I don't mean this in any negative way. It's just an interesting phenomenon that then I'm a free will guy. And one of the first things that it seems that you're trying to do is sell me a kind of determinism, which is what I couldn't possibly provide these things to my kids because they weren't provided to me as a child. Which is like saying, well, I can't buy my kids cell phones because there weren't cell phones around when I was a child. Well, it doesn't make much sense, does it?
Yeah. I
And again, none of this is critical. I mean, we might as well start at the deep end, right? Okay,
I
what's the struggle here? I'm trying to. You sound like you're
I'm
giving
so,
birth to something cactus shaped and sideways.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to think through like how I like you asked how I came to look at this and realize this was a problem. Uh, and I don't. I It seems like it kind of gradually surfaced in my mind. It wasn't like any one moment. It's just like I'm slowly putting together things, and then like one day I look up and there's a whole picture. And I don't know any one any one instance where I'm like, oh, this was not the way it should be. It's just, little things added up.
Okay. So why do you think you had to do this alone? How long have you been married?
Um, we've been married 16 years.
16 years. Okay. Okay. So she knew you from your late 20s, early 30s?
Late 20s.
Late 20s. Okay. So did she never notice that anything was absent in you or missing from you? Or like, I'm sort of curious why would you have to do this all alone?
Um, I guess we never. I guess we didn't talk about. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to think through, and I don't know. I guess we didn't talk about some of these things.
Well, that's by definition, right? If I'm saying, well, why didn't your wife bring it up? In other words, why didn't she talk to you about these things? And you say, well, I guess we never talked about these things. That's not adding anything to the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't you meet me on Thursday? Well, because I didn't meet you on Thursday. Like that doesn't answer anything. Did your wife ever? Do you think that she's ever noticed that anything is missing with regards to your parents and family and so on? Or are the same things missing from her parents and family? She's blind to it for that reason.
I don't. For one thing, my parents live where I am now. Where we live is over 1,000 miles from my parents, and so like it's either by phone or they would visit a couple times a year, and so she didn't actually see us interacting that much. Um,
So you didn't talk to your parents much on the phone?
I tried to. I would try to call once a week or so.
Okay, so
And
you
just
talked to your
talk a little
parents a
bit.
lot on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, and she didn't notice anything different about you before or after? Did she spend much time with your parents? Did you spend Christmases together? Did she know much about your childhood? I mean, the fact that they live 1,000 miles away is not a massive impediment to her figuring out that things were missing from your childhood. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, did you tell her much about your childhood over the course of the last 16 odd years?
Different parts, yeah. Like how, yeah, how some of how our family got along. Um, and she noticed things, me and I have a sister, older brother. Um, and she's noticed, what a couple other people have pointed out, that, my parents tended to focus very much on my brother, and my sister and me were just kind of there a lot of the time.
Ah, okay.
Uh,
So she did recognize that you were missing things from your parents as a child.
I think so, yeah.
Sorry, what do you mean? You think so? I was just confirming what you told me. Two and two
Yeah,
makes
I mean,
four. So you're saying two and two makes four. I think so. It's like, no. I need to get a little bit more exactitude because I thought you were saying that this is something that your wife did notice.
yeah, she noticed that element of the our relationship.
Okay. And given that there was this favoritism regarding your sister and certain things that were absent for you and your brothers, did she ask any sort of further questions or try to sort of figure out what may have been missing for you as a child? Or what else, I guess?
Not really, I don't think.
I'm not sure what that's just a fog bank. I mean, if you'd
Not
had those conversations, I'm sure you'd remember them.
Yeah, I not really a lot of conversations like that, no.
Okay, so that's just more fog, not really a lot of conversations. I don't know what that means. Does that mean you had 50 of them, but you were thinking maybe you wanted 100 or 5 when you were thinking 50? I don't know what that means. How many conversations did you have about with your wife where she was curious about your childhood and what may have been missing? Sorry to be such a nag. I apologize.
I You're trying to get information out. I'm not I'm not trying to be a difficult witness. I don't feel like I
No, the honest truth,
under
honestly, that the truth is that you don't remember any particular conversations about these things with your wife.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's shown a fair lack of curiosity about your childhood. Do you think, I mean, how much do you know about her childhood? Is this sort of a mutual inattentiveness, so to speak?
Um, I I know her, well, for one thing, her mother lives very close, and so I see them interact. I know, and her parents, got divorced um, when she was 18 or 20, and by that point, she was relieved that they got divorced. And um, I know something about like how she, you know, an older aunt or grandmother, watched her and her cousin while her parents were at work, and so it's and the kind of inattentiveness that went with that.
So she also had a neglected childhood that was relatively untrained, is that right? Like that she didn't get much feedback or proactive help with how to live?
I think I think she got more in some ways than I did. Like I know she has a pretty I think she has a more of a relationship with her parents than I feel like I do.
So she got
Um,
more sort of feedback and is closer to her parents than you are, that you were with your mom and dad and that you are with your dad. Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if, 10 is like really good and connected and getting good kinds of feedback and 0 is colossal indifference to the fate of the children, where would you rank you and your wife's childhood on that sort of 1 to 10 scale?
Um, For me, it would be 3 or 4, I guess.
So you got 30 or
like
40,
art.
you got 30 or 40% of what parents should be providing to their children. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, like, I mean, our our physical needs were cared for, but, like, I don't I don't feel like they're like,
Well, no, your
to
physical
give
needs,
one.
your physical needs could be cared for by kidnappers or prison or in some godforsaken foster care, so to speak, right? So I'm really sorry. My apologies. I wasn't clear. When I said 10 is close and connected and parents providing support on how to live and so on, I'm really not just talking about the physical stuff. So just on that, and I'm sorry, I was unclear. On that dimension of close connected parenting, caring about the children, teaching them how to live, as you say, how to make friends and how to negotiate and all these kinds of things, right? So if 10 is parents who do a really great job of that and 0 is parents who do very little, if any, of that, where would you put yourself on that? So I don't want to puff up the stuff that's missing in your childhood with they gave me food and shelter, right? Because that's not the issue. So just on that dimension of being involved with your children and transferring wisdom to them, teaching them how to live, and giving them good feedback on how to make friends, negotiate, and so on. Where would you put yourself and your wife on that scale of 0 to 10?
I would say for me, that pushes it down to 3. Um,
So it was 3 to
for
4, now it's 3.
Yeah,
So your parents
yeah,
gave you 30% of what you needed emotionally to succeed in life.
something like that, yeah.
Well,
I,
okay, so I'm a little surprised, but okay, that's fine. And where would you put your wife?
probably more like 6, maybe 7.
Okay, so she had more than twice the amount of emotional connectivity and mentorship and training that you did, right?
Yeah, at the same it's also kinda complicated because, like I said, at the same time, her parents divorced and did not have a, entirely peaceful relationship, so
No, but
before
that's
that,
that's
so
that's 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 in the realm of parental conflict. So that's different from what I'm talking about
to
because
I
it's
don't
not a
know if this
sliding
is
scale. It's not like, well, the 10 becomes a 5, but you count it as a 10 because the parents were divorcing. Whether you get the emotional training or feedback or connectivity or not, this is an absolute scale. Like if both your parents got hit by a bus when you were 6 months old, from your parents, it would be a 0. You wouldn't say it's a 10, but unfortunately they got hit by a bus, right? So the fact that your wife's parents got divorced doesn't affect this scale at all. It still is judged by the same metric.
Yeah,
So you're 3, they're 6 or 7. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So with your 3, just sort of help me understand that. So so 3 is not bad. It's not great, obviously, but it's not terrible. So if, let's say, you only got 30% training on how to make friends, that's not the worst start to things. And then you can often figure things out going forward from there. And so was it 30% in that you got, let's say, training? So give me a couple of things that you felt you'd mentioned at the beginning. One was making friends. Tell me a couple of the others just so I make sure I'm addressing the right issues.
Like, how to deal with girls, how to go out and, you know, get ready for, a career and life and a job and, like, how to plan these things and what to like, it's basically go to college. Okay, what do I do there? I don't know. You go to college. It's like,
What
okay,
about money and handling money and so on? Could you
not
do me a favor? Every time I ask you a question, you go as if it's really exasperating. If you could not do that, it's kind of a headwind that I have to fight, if that makes sense, because I really feel like I'm pushing you into these impatient corners of annoyance. So, not a big criticism. It's just a minor request from my part that every time I ask you something, you don't go, this kind of stuff. So, what about, did you get training on money and finances and debt and borrowing and so on?
Not a lot
You just did the sigh
directly.
again. I don't even think you noticed that you're doing it. Anyway, go on.
I'm not trying. I'm sorry. Not directly. They would listen to.
No. I don't care what they listen to. It's from parents to you. It being in the environment, they listen to some podcast on money, right? That's not the same. So from them to you, direct eye to eye, training you and stuff. So did they do that with regards to money?
Not much. No, not really.
Not much, not really. So some. Is that in the 30%?
Yeah.
Okay, so almost a third of the time they would teach you about these things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, 1/3 money. Okay, but dealing with girls, was it 1 out of 3 times, or was it almost 0?
That one I think would be almost 0.
Okay. What about making friends?
I don't really remember any advice from
Okay,
them
so that's
about
close
that.
to a 0. Hang on, and I'm sorry, I just want to run through this list. What about getting ready for a career?
Like I said, it was, go to college. Okay, what do I do once I'm there? Like, what should I study? Like, what
No, I'm
kind of
aware
things
of
should I
that.
look at?
I'm asking, was it close to 0? I'm just trying to figure out where the third is that you're coming up with. And I'm not disagreeing with you about the third. I just want to make sure I understand it. In other words, is it they only gave you a third on, we've got 5 topics here: girls, friends, career, what to do at college, and money. Money, you've got a third. Deal with girls 0, make friends 0, get ready for a career 0, and go to college to do what at college, and how do you handle choosing college? Was that a 0, or was that they did a third there as well?
Not really a lot of clear advice. It's
Okay, I you have this urge to explain a bunch of things and give me a bunch of caveats, and I understand that there are caveats, right? So right now, it's nowhere close to a 3. That's why I was surprised. Because we've got 5 major topics, only one of them did you get 1/3. There's no way that that's close to 3 as a whole. Does that make sense to you?
So you're saying it looks like I was rating too high?
I'm not saying that. You're telling me that. Right, so let me give you an example, right? So we've got 5 things here, and if they had done a 10 on all 5 things, like they really were involved, they really, whatever, right? Then you'd be a 10 in terms of parental involvement. Now, for them to get a 3 as a whole, either some of these would have to be 10 or 6, but they can't all be 0 except for one, which is a 3. There's no way that doesn't translate to a 3 as a whole, right?
Yeah.
So if you were a salesman and you had 5 customers you were going to call on, right? And I said, what was the average of your sales to these customers? And you said 3. And then I said, well, did you sell anything to the first customer? Oh, no. What about the second customer? No. Third customer? No. Fourth customer? No. Fifth customer? Yeah, I sold that, right? I sold 3 things, right? Would that be reasonable to say, out of these 5 things, the average that I sold was 3, when you in fact only sold 3 to 1 out of 5 customers?
No, that's not correct.
No, in fact, that's 1.5. Because it's very low, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it would be even less than that, right? So it's 3 out of 50, because each one of these being 10 would add up to 50, right?
Yeah.
But you got 3 out of 50, not 3 out of 10. 3 out of 50 is less than 1, because 5 would be 1 out of 50, right?
Yeah.
It's not great. And that's why I was kind of surprised at the 3. Now, we could come up with other, let's, to be fair to your parents, though, were there other categories, because it's not like there are only these 5 categories, are there other categories where they did more than 0?
I don't know how much you'll count this. I would say like the best thing, the best thing they did for me when I was a kid, and the reason I'm probably still going in any sense, like basically if the church doors were open, we were in church. And I, church services, youth group, and like, getting together with the teaching and the other kids
And
there.
I'm not going to, obviously, I don't want to say that's not worth anything. Of course it is, but that's also not your parents doing that directly.
Yeah.
Right. So the question is, did they talk to you in depth about religion and moral responsibilities and salvation and all these other kinds of good, juicy, meaty topics, or did they mostly let other people do that for them?
There was more of that. There was, yeah, we did that as a family. And depending on, you know, through the years, sometimes we did it more regularly than others, when your kids get older and schedules get complicated. And so sometimes there's less, but we did talk about that, and we did.
Okay. And that's great. So
Had,
what sort of conversations did you have about that?
I remember when I was very young, we would have like, I don't know how often we did it, but we would have like little family studies, I guess you'd call it, and just go over something from the like read something from the Bible and talk about it.
When you were very little, right? Okay, so that's good. So
Yeah,
with religion, can we give them a 3, or would you like it higher or lower? Given that it didn't last much beyond your younger years, right?
I guess directly from them it would be 4.
Okay, let's be fair. I want to be fair about that. Okay, so 4, religion. Okay, good. Good. Okay. So now we're 7 out of 60. So we've broken a 1. 1 and change, right?
I think part of the reason I'm moving so slow is I kind of think I didn't want to look at how bad things were, if that makes sense.
No, I get that. I get that. But I mean, and if you were 20, I would be delicate, but you're not. Right? And you're a 10-year listener, so we can go fairly fast, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to give a specific example of the kind of things missing, when I was, in high school a few times, there was a girl I liked, at this point or that. And I don't think it ever really occurred to me to ask my parents for advice. And
But that when you liked a girl, like what you might or should do.
yeah, and that's really not good, that just like, it wasn't like I tried and they didn't want to talk. It didn't occur to me, hey, this is something I should ask.
Right. It didn't cross your mind. Right. Now, sorry, is there something else you wanted to mention about that?
Um, Again, another specific example to kind of fill in details a little bit. I remember when I was in 6th or 7th grade, when I was in school, I was the weird, annoying kid. Um, and one of my friends, who was an actual friend, and he wasn't just trying to be mean here, but you know, I remember he said to me one time, like, the reason a lot of kids don't like you is your parents never really taught you how to get along with other kids. And I didn't really know what to do with that at the time, and I just remembered it.
Okay, and what do you think was missing in your interactions with kids, or present that they didn't like? There's that sigh again.
I, I'm sorry. I guess I just when I'm pausing to think about something,
No,
it's
a
just
sigh
what
is
I
very
do.
specific. A sigh is a sign of resistance. I'm pretty good at reading people's cues. Anyway, I just ask you to keep an eye on it. But go ahead. So yeah, what do you think was an issue with your relationship with kids?
I don't. I mean, like I said, I was the weird, annoying kid. I don't know. I don't know what the specifics were, other
Okay. Do you
than I
know
just
what's?
didn't know.
It's very hard to get facts out of you. So when you say I don't know what the specifics were, I don't know what that means. Does that mean you know what the general things were? Because I didn't ask for specifics. I have to keep circling you back to figure out what the hell you're talking about. I'm just pointing this out, right? You probably don't get this kind of direct or blunt feedback. But your language is extremely foggy and confusing, and it's hard to know what the heck you're talking about. So when you say, well, I don't know anything specific, it's like, am I supposed to ask now if you know something general? What's the difference between specific and general? Why are you saying, I don't know anything specific when I didn't ask for specifics? I am, in fact, asking for general principles as a whole. So it's hard to know what you're talking about. And I don't think that's accidental. I'm not saying it's conscious, but I don't think it's accidental.
I just know I was considered weird and annoying by most of the other
What
kids, and
was annoying about you? You've had 40 years, almost 40 years to figure it out, right? And you got the feedback from your friend. You've listened to my show for a long time. What do you think, in general, was annoying about you?
I I guess one part of it was I would my tendency to pick apart things people said, and you know I don't know if you'll catch this, but like there's kind of the joke, someone says, well, actually, and analyze something instead of taking what they said in a reasonable sense. I think there was some of that. I guess
Can you think of any
maybe
examples, or is that just a general principle that you think of? There's that sigh again.
I'm I'm sorry, I'm not trying.
No, I want you to try to not do it. Just be conscious. Just be conscious. Be in the conversation. And, if you said you would try to, so genuinely try to. Be conscious of it, that's all. Because the sigh is hiding something. It allows you to keep an emotional distance, which is kind of what we're trying to solve here. So what were the general things, what were the, now specific, right? What were specific things that you will actually, and fedora wearing, kind of did?
I remember, and this was something someone who didn't like me much said at another point, but in the same general vein, they had said, well, are you going to do, are you going to do track next year or something like that? Because I was running, and I said something like, unless my legs fall off, or something to that effect. And he said, well, that's the kind of thing that people really get frustrated. It's a,
Well, it's annoying. Yeah, that's really annoying. So why do you think you would do something like that? Because you're still doing
I
it a bit, right?
I guess it was partly look at how smart I am.
Well,
I
but it
think that
doesn't
was
make,
part
I
of
mean,
it,
it doesn't make you look smart. So why was it important for you that people think you were smart?
because I didn't have a lot of other things to point to. I I didn't have, I wasn't, like, there were not a lot of other things I could, say. This was like, hey, this is why I'm worthwhile.
Okay, and why do you think there were things as a whole that you didn't feel worthwhile?
I don't know. I I'm sorry. I'm trying.
Well, let me ask you this. Did your parents indicate that they took pleasure in your company? Not just as a sort of bucket for religious instruction, but they enjoyed your company, they found you interesting or funny or engaging or thoughtful or, something around taking pleasure in your company. Did your parents seek you out and so on?
I know I spent a good deal of time pretty much by myself reading a lot when I was a kid. Um, and so I remember I actually just listened to it the other day. You talking about Robin Williams several years ago, and you talked about what you called me plus,
Hmm.
and I think as looking at the way I am today, and trying to the ways I try to get attention, make people laugh. I think that's some of it. I think that describes me somewhat.
Hmm. Do you remember my question?
Did
I'm not trying to be a gotcha. I just don't want to repeat it if you do.
did did my parents show that they were interested in me, wanted me around?
I mean, it's sort of it's a bit of a joke in my household. If my wife is busy, I'm like glomming onto my daughter for something fun to do, and I enjoy both of their companies, um, and so it's kind of like a joke. But I always want my daughter to know how much I enjoy her company because I do. She's like super fun.
I guess I'd have to say no because like I said, a lot of my time as a kid was just hey, I'll be here reading by myself, and and also like I said, my brother, my older brother tended to have priority most of the time.
Sorry, was your older brother or your older sister?
Older brother.
Okay, my
Yeah.
apologies. Okay, all right. So, can you think of a time that your mother or father or both were like, hey, let's go do something, or I miss you, or I've thought of this fun thing that we could do together, or something like that?
Yeah, we would get together, like all of us for like game nights, or like we'd play card games or things like that. And so we would when we were when all of us as a family, we would do things like that a fair bit.
Ah, okay. Got it. So that's in general, um, that's fun thing. But was it you? Was it you as an individual rather than we're all playing this game?
I don't I don't think so. I don't think that's something that happened a lot.
Okay. See, again, this is just fog, man. Why do you think that you're communicating anything other than confusion when you say, I don't think that happened a lot? Am I supposed to know what a lot means to you? I'm just in general, like I'm trying to understand your perception of what what I need in the conversation.
I guess what I'm trying
Don't guess, don't
for there
guess,
is
don't guess. See, all of this hedging language, I guess maybe a little, perhaps somewhat, it's giving you an out. It's defensive language. It's what would be if I was a hostile judge or a cross-examining lawyer, like, this old thing from the West Wing, where the lawyer's giving advice and he says, "What do you have the time?" And he says, "Yeah, it's 3:00." He says, "No, that's not how you answer a lawyer." The lawyer says, "Do you have the time?" You say, "Yes," but you don't volunteer anything more. So you are reacting to me as if I am a hostile, cross-examining judge or lawyer who has the power to throw you in jail if you say something wrong. And so you are constantly using imprecise, sophisticating language, if that makes sense. And again, this is not a criticism. I'm just sort of pointing it out.
I don't think it was zero, but it wasn't a major feature of.
Okay. Do you
It
think
wasn't
that
something
it
that happened
wasn't?
all.
Do you think that it wasn't a major feature tells me anything? I don't know what that phrase means. So you're saying it's somewhere between 0 and infinity. It wasn't 0, but it wasn't a major feature. So it's somewhere between 0 and a whole heck of a lot, but less than that. Did you see? Like, I have no idea what to do with that.
Yeah,
And again,
I
I'm
see the
just
problem. I
pointing
don't
it out,
know.
right? So how many times do you remember your parents seeking out your company and wanting to spend time with you because they enjoy your presence? Not as part of a general board game or Uno game or something, but specific to you. And this is not a cross-examination. I'm just curious. I'm not trying to catch you or get you or anything like that.
I can't right now call to mind a specific instance.
So, to your memory, it's 0.
Yeah.
So why is that hard to say? And again, I'm not criticizing. I'm just curious.
Because I feel like I'm attacking them, and I don't feel like that's a thing I should do.
You feel like you're attacking them by being honest.
I feel like there must be. I'm not I'm not trying to be dishonest, but I feel like I feel like there's something something I should be telling you that I just can't get at right now. Like there should be a positive here somewhere, but
No,
I'm just
you've given, hang on. You see, you've given me 2 positives, money and religion, a 3 and a 4. Not great, but it's definitely more positive than the rest of the zeros, right?
yeah.
So it's a little confusing even from that standpoint because you have given me some positives, right?
Yeah. I I'm s- I guess it's that I'm scared that I'm scared that I'm lying through omission somehow, that there's these great things that I can't call to mind that I should be telling you about, and I'm painting this horrible picture and I'm not being fair to them.
Okay, so there's some emotion, and tell me more about what you mean.
I don't I don't want them to be awful.
You don't want them to be.
Awful. I don't wanna say they're horrible and because 'cause they're my mom and dad.
Is this a religious thing, like honor their mother and their father, or where do you think it's coming from?
Well, I mean, for one thing, I'm half her and half him. If
Right?
they're awful, then I guess I am.
Why is that true? Do you think that I'm awful because my parents were awful? I'm not. That's not a challenging question. I'm just curious about the logic of your thinking.
I mean, but, they're I mean, it's definitely true in some sense, like, I'm half him and half
No,
her.
no, no. You didn't answer my question. Don't ignore it. It's kind of rude, right? I mean, you can tell me I'm not going to answer your question, but to go on as if I hadn't said anything, it's a little rude, right?
I don't No, I don't think you're awful. I guess just, your parents are a part of you, even if you've even if you've even if you've gotten even if you've had to overcome their problems.
Your parents are a part of you, even if you had to overcome their problems. Okay, I think I understand that. But why does that mean that if your parents are deficient, that you're deficient, or if your parents have weaknesses or things that they did wrong, or if your parents are, as you say, horrible, that you're horrible? And I'm not even disagreeing with you. I just want to understand your reasoning.
I don't think I've thought that through that much. It just kind of seems like an obvious it just seems like a axiom, I guess you could say. It seems like something that's just there. It's
Well, I could understand it if you were fresh off the turnip truck, but you've been listening to me for 10 years. And I assume that you think that I have some positive and moral things to say. But that would only be true if I was moral, and you certainly know that my parents weren't. So that's what I don't quite understand. Is it just for you? Is this rule just for you, or is it for others as well?
I think I think it's that I can see reflected in me reflected in my actions some of the same things from my parents, and I don't know how to change that. I don't know how to change
No, no,
direction.
that's a whole different thing, though. That's a whole different topic. You're saying I can't criticize my parents because they're part of me, and if they're terrible, I'm terrible, and now I could have been a better father. That's a whole different topic, right?
If you don't if you don't manage to change direction, then you are just the same thing. I guess is what I'm is what I is where that's kind of where that is in my head.
Well, but that's the very much the opposite, right? So if you say I can't criticize my parents, and then you say, well, it's only bad if you don't change direction, but you can't change direction without criticizing your parents, right?
Yeah.
It's like saying, well, I want to make sure that I don't end up in the wrong direction. So the way I do that is never question whether I'm going in the wrong direction. So, and again, you would have heard, I'm sure, a whole bunch of call-in shows and this and that and the other. So that's not the answer. And again, sorry to be an egg, but that's not the answer as to why you won't criticize your parents. And again, I say this with great sympathy. I mean, I can tell you why you don't want to criticize your parents if you want.
I'm scared to, and I don't.
Well,
I can't really
understand
articulate
that,
more
but
than that.
that's the what. That's not the why. The what is that you're scared of criticizing your parents. The question is the why. Why are you scared of criticizing your parents?
I don't know. I've said as much as I know how to say about
Would
that.
you like the answer?
Okay.
Sorry, is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
Okay. See, again, this is precision in language. It gives you an oddly feminine aspect. I don't mean to say that you're feminine, but I mean this not answering things directly is a kind of feminine thing. It's actually kind of a slave morality, which we can sort of get into in a sec. And I say this again with great sympathy, and it's not like I'm always direct. But so the reason you can't criticize your parents is you don't have a strong enough bond with them, and so you are held hostage by your lack of a bond because you don't have a strong bond, and therefore all criticisms feel like they might just abandon you. In other words, you don't know if your parents will still take care of you if you were to, in fact, criticize them, that they would simply withdraw, and you can't afford to criticize them because you need them for your survival, but the bond isn't strong enough to handle criticism. Like, I don't want to step across a bridge over a chasm if it's kind of half rotten and I don't think it's going to make it. I mean, I'm happy to walk across a bridge that's made of concrete, but not one that's half rotten and it's fallen off and rope and it's made of rope and things like that. Like, I'm not going to cross that bridge because it's not secure enough, and your bond is not secure enough to criticize your parents. You're terrified of criticizing your parents because if they aren't particularly attached to you and you criticize them, they might just tell you to F off and leave you behind. I mean, that would be your instincts, right? I mean, I'm not saying they would do that in reality, but as we evolved, criticism grows out of a strong bond. And your parents did not welcome criticism. Like I ask my daughter on a pretty regular basis, is there anything I can do better or different? Because parenting, as you know, is constantly changing. I can't parent her like she was still 5 or 10 or even last year. So I need to adapt based upon her needs, right? And so I'm constantly asking, I ask my audience all the time, what do you want me to talk about? How can I serve you better? And I ask my wife, how can I be a better husband? And so, like, what can I do that's different or better, or how am I doing? That kind of stuff, right? So I'm constantly inviting feedback because I want people to experience their interactions with me as positive as possible, if that makes sense. And I'm not sort of trying to pat myself on the back here. I'm just trying to give you an example of what it means to have a strong bond. My daughter can criticize me robustly and give me strong feedback, and that's a good thing. That's what I want, because the last thing I'd want is for her to bite her tongue and be unhappy, right? And not tell me something that I need to know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a terror of death, really. That is the issue.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a prisoner, you're unjustly imprisoned in some horrible gulag, and the guard says to you, I don't care whether you live or die, are you going to criticize the guard?
Not much, no.
Okay, are you back to not much? No, seriously, man. Like, what are you doing? This is annoying. Would you criticize the guard? Seriously? No, because you'd fucking die. You would not criticize the guard. Can we at least agree on that? If he says, I don't care whether you live or die, and he's responsible for bringing you your food, will you criticize the guard, yes or no?
No, I'd keep my mouth shut.
You would keep your mouth shut. And if some other prisoner tried to get you to criticize the guard, what would you say?
I'd rather not talk about that.
Right. This is why you use fogging language, because you don't know if you're being trapped, if the guard is actually secretly if the other prisoner is going to inform on you to the guard to get special treatment. So you can't say, no, I love the guard because then the prisoner will think you're a lunatic and will look badly upon you and might, I don't know, get mad at you and I don't know, shank you in the mess hall or something. And you can't say, I hate that guard, because then he might. So you can't say anything, which is where all your foggy language comes from. And I say this again with great sympathy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm like I said, I'm trying to change direction. I'm trying to, do I want to do better going forward. I want to have more going forward, but I
Want to
don't
have
feel
more
like
going forward? Do you
more. I
hang
want to
on? No,
have
no.
a.
But do you see that you're still? I'm talking about your vague and foggy language, and what do you immediately do?
I want to
You
have
go.
a
You go to vague. So you're not answering my question. What do you immediately do?
talk in ways that don't communicate anything.
Vague and foggy language, right? It's driving people. And this is why. Listen, I'm not saying that the people are right in terms of how they handled it as a child, but this is why, when you were a kid, and maybe this happens as an adult too, this is why people find you irritating. Now, please tell, I'm not saying at all that the essence of you is irritating or you're foundationally irritating. And I can tell you why immature people can't communicate what's going on. Why? I mean, do you have this as an adult? Do you find that it's difficult to keep people's attention without the me plus making them laugh and so on? Or do you find that people sometimes withdraw or are less seeking out your company and so on?
I don't have. I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
Okay, let me ask you this.
I'm.
Hang on. How many close friends do you have? And I know that sounds like challenging. How many? I'm just curious. How many close friends do you have that you get together with regularly and talk about life and thoughts and feelings and arguments and, I don't know, politics? And with people that you communicate with on a regular basis who you would consider close friends?
I'd say 3.
That is fantastic. So that's very good. I mean, in your 40s, especially as a parent, right? And so how often do you get together with these? Is it men? I assume it's men.
Yeah.
Okay. And how often do you get together, or how often do you have conversations with these men?
I'd say once or twice a month. It's been there's scheduling. You have kids and busy with
No,
this
no, I
activity and
understand
that,
that.
and scheduling has been
Okay. And
scheduling has been more.
have you talked to these friends about your insomnia or about your hesitation about criticizing your parents or, other things that we're talking about, within the first hour of chatting?
Um, I've talked about my sleep problems, and they've heard plenty about that. Um,
And have they given you any particular thoughts as to why this might be occurring?
they've they've tried to offer advice. Have you tried this thing? Have you tried that thing?
No, but that's just like valerian root or whatever. That's just practical stuff. What about something that might be going on that would be troubling your soul or something like that? Not like, hey, have you tried melatonin? Right.
Not analyzing things like that. No.
Okay. Do they know about your parents' indifference to you as a child?
It's not something I've really talked with them about.
Okay. So what is the deepest subject that you've talked about your friends with?
Honestly, I feel like maybe I'm cheating here. Maybe I'm including something that doesn't really fit. We get together and do record discussions about different poems, and not just about the poem, but about like all the ideas that go into it. And
Oh,
so they
that's
go all
great, but
over the
that's
place.
not personal, right? That's about the poem.
Yeah, not
Okay, so
not a
what is
lot
the
of
deepest
personal.
topic that you've talked about that is personal?
Like I said, the sleep problems, and I'm worried about how things are going with my kids.
Ah, okay.
And
So are they parents as well, these guys?
um, one of them has been a parent for a while. One of them just had a kid
Ah, okay.
pretty
So
recently.
with regards to being worried about how things are going with your kids, what sort of advice are you getting back from your friends, or in particular, your friend who's been a parent for a while?
Not not a lot of direct advice. It's kind of the
Okay, you're fogging
general.
again. You're fogging again.
It's kind of a
Well, hang on,
general
hang on, hang
reassurance.
on, hang on. What are you fogging about? How am I supposed to know what you mean by not a lot of direct advice? What does a lot mean? What does not a lot mean? And what the living hell is the difference between direct and indirect advice? Right? So you understand, we're back into fog language. I don't know what you're talking about, and you don't seem to know that I don't know what you're talking about. Right after I've given you like 3 annoying speeches on being direct. Do you see what I mean? Like you have this habit of just fogging and not communicating anything. And then you tell me, well, I'm really close to my friends, but if you were close to your friends would have told you, I don't know what you're talking about half the time, because you use all of this fogging language that is completely ill-defined. And again, this is not a big nag or criticism. I'm just pointing out a truth. What does it mean to say he hasn't given me a lot of direct feedback or direct advice? What is the difference between direct and indirect advice? I don't know what that means. Is that mimed? I don't.
What I
Does he paint
what I
Jackson
was
Pollock
gonna
style? I don't know what that means. Sorry, go ahead.
what I was gonna say is it's more supportive. Like you're doing okay. They're gonna be all right. You're not.
So there's no
It's
advice. No, that's not
not
advice.
really.
That's a rejection of wanting to hear about the problem. I mean, that's like the gym teacher who, your bone is sticking out your leg, and he's like, walk it off, you'll be fine. It's like, I really won't be. And we'll get to the issues with the kids, right? But I'll tell you why I think people don't want to give you direct advice. That's just brushing you off. Honestly, I'll be frank with you, right? That's brushing you off. Oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's like, no, I mean, I'm having some real trouble here. Like, can you imagine people call me up and my entire call-in show is like, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You're good. You're okay. Like, can you imagine? I mean, who would listen to that? That wouldn't be anything insightful or helpful, would it?
No.
So the reason why I think people get annoyed, and I'm not saying you're annoying in any foundational sense. I'm just saying that why people might have avoidance of your considerable depths, right? So all the pluses that you have as a person is because you treat everyone, I assume, or you're certainly treating me, as if I'm an abuser. Right? So if I treated everyone as if they were a hostile prosecuting attorney who had the power to throw my ass in jail for 20 years, right? If I treated everyone like that, who would want to chat with me?
Keep them at a safe distance.
Well, I mean,
emotionally.
it would be, I would be pretty stressed talking to people because everyone could throw me in jail like a prosecuting attorney. And people wouldn't want to talk with me because I'm treating them as if they're a highly dangerous and toxic person with huge power over me. Did you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's an old story about talking to, I don't know, like the feds or the FBI or something like that. So again, this is not legal advice. This is just something I've heard, right? Which is, so what they'll do is they'll say, when did this happen? March the 12th last year, right? And then they'll wait for a day or two or a couple of hours, and then they'll say, when did this happen? And if you say March 15th, because you kind of freaked out, or you say March 12th, 2 years ago or something, right? Then you've told them two different things, right? And then they'll say, well, one of these is a lie, and lying to law enforcement is an offense, right? So lawyers will advise often, and this is, again, just my amateur understanding. I'm not trying to give any legal advice, but lawyers will say, and you'll see this when people get interviewed, but when did this happen again? They'll say, I refer you to my previous answer. Because you're in a very dangerous situation. And what do lawyers always tell their clients with regards to the police?
Don't talk.
Shut up, right? If you have to take out a cross-stitching railway spike and stitch your mouth shut, shut up. Because the police are way better at interrogating than you are at being interrogated, because they've done it for 20 years and hopefully this is your first time. So they just say, shut up, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Now, you can't, if somebody asks you a question, you can't just say, I plead the fifth, or I refer you to my previous answer, or you're going to have to go through my lawyer. You have to actually communicate, but you can't say anything. Because you couldn't say anything to your parents. You had criticisms of your parents, you were upset with your parents, you wanted to be closer to your parents, but they rejected you. And I'm sorry to put it so bluntly, but they did. I'm not starving people in the world that I don't feed unless I lock someone in my basement, and then I sure as hell am starving them. Because they're reliant upon me for food and they can't get it anywhere else. But the same thing with love for children, right? As a child, you desperately need your parents' love and care and attention, and you want to know that they enjoy your company and that they appreciate your existence and that they take delight in your thoughts and feelings and want to know more about who you are, and right? Because you can't get it anywhere else. You can only get it from your parents. So you were angry to some degree with your parents and also terrified, because if they saw your anger, they might completely reject you and leave you behind. And that's why you can't criticize your parents. Now, the problem is because you haven't gotten to the point of just robustly criticizing your parents, also known as just being honest. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Am I right? So because of that, you treat everyone like they're your parents. Which is why there's all this foggy language that you can't ever be caught on that doesn't communicate anything. It's a filibuster. It's baffle cap. They call it vamping. Like if someone's supposed to be on the air on your radio station, but they're a few minutes late, you just have to say stuff because you can't have dead air, right? So because you treat everyone like your cold, withholding, uninvolved parents, people get offended. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if I treated every woman like she was my mother, oh God, God help me, right? If I treated every woman like she was my mother, would a quality, healthy, happy, moral woman want to spend time with me?
She probably has other options, so no.
She probably has other options, so no. Just no. It's just, you just be robust. Just no. Of course she wouldn't. Now, she might say, gee, I really sympathize or whatever, right? But, if every time she went to scratch her eyebrow, I dove under the couch and said, you're going to beat me, would that be a little tiring and annoying for her? It's like, I'm not going to beat you. Did you see what I mean?
Yeah.
If I had a male friend and every time he went to the bathroom, I clung onto his leg saying, you're going to leave just like Daddy did, would that be a little tiring for him after a while?
Pretty quickly, yes.
Yeah, because he'd be like, bro, I'm not your dad. Like, go talk to your dad. That's not me, right? So if you treat people like they're your cold, controlling, withholding parents, and we'll get into why the fog language occurs in specifically with your parents. But if you treat people like they're your parents, in other words, you have the same avoidant defensiveness and fogging that you had to have as a survival mechanism with your parents, if you treat everyone like they're your parents, people will find that annoying after a while. Because they're not. I mean, can you imagine if every conversation, if every conversation I had was like conversations that I had with hostile reporters from the mainstream media back in the day? Can you imagine? People would be a little annoyed after a while, right? Because they're not hostile reporters from the mainstream media from back in the day, right? Okay, so what happened when you were a kid? What happened if you made a mistake? Were you punished? How were you punished? What happened when you made a mistake or did something that your parents strongly disapproved of?
I I'm trying to come up with a specific instance, so that I'm not just giving these general ideas.
Well, hang on. Were you spanked?
Yes,
Okay.
it
Were you
was not
spanked? Hang on. Were you spanked open or closed hand?
open.
Okay.
It was
Was it on the rear end? Was it anywhere else on your body? Was it clothes on or bare skin?
uh, rear end, clothes on.
Was it painful?
Uh, I would expect so. That's
Well,
the
no, you
point.
were there. Sometimes hitting is just shocking. It's surprising, but it's not like I can't walk or I can't sit
It
down.
wasn't. It was never to that. It was never to that degree.
So it wasn't particularly painful. Is that right?
No, it wasn't. It
Didn't leave
wasn't anything
bruises,
like that.
didn't,
No.
you could sit down and so on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Not that kind.
Okay. And who would administer the spanking?
That would be dad.
And did you always know, or generally always know, generally always know is a bit of an oxymoron. Did you mostly know why you were being spanked? Was it explained to you ahead of time?
Yes. You
Were
did
you
this
given
thing.
warnings beforehand?
In other words, like this was your. If you do that again, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't.
You don't remember any.
I don't. It wasn't a regular. It. Give me a second. It's the number of times I was spanked as a kid is I could count on two hands, maybe one. It wasn't
Like once a year
it
kind of
wasn't
thing.
frequent. Maybe that.
Okay.
Maybe less.
Okay. And how else were you punished if you were doing something your parents disapproved of strongly? And by the way,
Go,
kudos to your
go
parents for relying on spanking so rarely. But sorry, go ahead.
um go to your room, you don't have such and such a thing for such and such amount of time.
Yeah, like no TV, no
things like
computer
that.
or whatever, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And were you ever yelled at that you could recall?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what would happen there? And would it be mother or father or both?
Um, Dad, and just upset about something and yelling. I I think it was more I think it was more yelling in general rather than like directed specifically at me, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't like he was angry and he was yelling, but it wasn't necessarily like
Like,
in my
God damn
face or
it,
anything
rather
like that.
than you stupid kid?
Yeah, more like that.
Okay. And what about your mother? Did she raise her voice or do any corporal punishment?
Dad, like I said, Dad did spanking. I think with her, it was more like, you know, I'm so disappointed in you. I'm so like it, like you know, this hurts so much.
Oh, she was like
It,
martyr mom.
kind of, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be
No, that's fine.
vague.
That's fine. So, how often would your mother get disappointed? Would she lecture you, or just be sad and how much you've hurt her by whatever?
That would like that kind of thing would be, you know, probably a couple times a year. Like it was like it wasn't like a
Wow.
constant.
Okay. So it's very. I mean, how often would your dad yell?
Uh, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't.
You must
I'm
have
not,
some idea. I mean, once a year, once a month, once every 6 months, once a week. I mean, just roughly.
once a month, maybe more.
Okay. And did either of your parents ever call you names or characterize you in some general negative way, like selfish or thoughtless or careless or?
Uh, the second part, like not call me names, but probably like you don't think about other people or things like that. Yeah.
And that was a fairly absolute statement, like you don't think about other people was something that they said as a general statement about you, or in this particular instance, you could have thought about other people more, or you forgot this time to, or was it just in general, or as a sort of personality characteristics, you don't think about other people?
More a general statement kind of thing.
Okay. And was that ever sorted out? Did they ever say, well, I'm really glad that you're thinking about other people more. I think that's fixed. Or was that more constant?
No, it was never really resolved. Never
Do you
we
think
worked
that your
that
mother
out.
went to her grave thinking that you, her son, was going through his life not thinking about other people?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, to what did they ascribe this selfishness, as they would call it, this narcissism or whatever they would say, that you just only think of yourself, you don't think of other people? Where would they think this came from? Or did they have a theory? Why? Was it like the devil? Was it like where? No, I'm not kidding, right? I mean, where would they think this personality trait of that's pretty monstrous? Where would they come from for them?
They never said give me they never attached that to any specific cause, so I don't know.
Okay. Do you think it was selfish for your parents to withhold affection from you and not seek out your company and make you feel loved and treasured?
Yeah.
So that would be projection then on their part, right? They're not thinking about you and what's best for you as a child in terms of love and affection and devotion and all of that. They're thinking about their own particular needs, which is to not express that kind of stuff.
To not get into topics which might hurt.
I'm sorry?
To not get into discussions that might hurt or be uncomfortable.
Sorry, I'm not sure where you're going from what I said, and I'm sorry if I just missed a bridge here, if you can fill me in. It's not a criticism, I'm just trying to understand where you got to.
Just that, like, if, why do you feel that way? If they
Sorry, why did you
address
feel what way?
if they address to me, why do you feel that way? Where's
Why do you feel
why,
what way? Why do you feel what way? What are you talking about?
if I was, sad or lonely,
Okay,
them
but hang on, hang on.
address.
So this is why I don't get the leap. So I was talking about they should have provided you sort of love and care and affection, right? But they were only thinking about their own needs and preferences, which was to not provide those things for whatever reason, right? So that would have diminished a lot of your sadness and loneliness, right?
Yeah.
So that's why if they had been attentive and affectionate to you as a child, then you would not have felt lonely and you wouldn't have felt like you had to say, quote, clever things like I'll do track and field next year if my legs don't fall off, because you wouldn't feel like you didn't have anything to offer. Because if we don't feel like we have anything to offer our parents, it's pretty hard to feel like we have anything to offer strangers, right?
Yeah.
So if they had been affectionate with you, they wouldn't be all of this sadness and loneliness. I mean, there may be occasional times when you're sad or whatever, but they wouldn't be all this sadness and loneliness to deal with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess what I was trying to say is, like, want to have they didn't want to have conversations that would they didn't want to get into conversations where it would where they would have to look at where is this, like, why do you feel this way? Where is this coming from?
Oh,
Because
and
in
if it
some
was
ways
like,
that
I
would,
feel distant from you, mom, and you, dad, and I don't feel loved, and like that would be difficult for them, right?
yeah, that's what I was
Okay,
trying to
okay,
get
got
to.
it. So after they were already cold, they didn't want to ask questions that might make them upset, which is selfish on their part, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Got it. All right. Okay. So I wanted to mention with regards, you said that money was a 3, religion was a 4 in terms of like out of 10 communicating something of value, right? Unfortunately, and tragically, really, the fact that your parents have a 4 in religion makes it absolutely inexcusable that they would get zeros anywhere else. Because what does the Bible say is the foundational responsibility of parents?
To train up children in the way they should go.
That's right. To train up children in the way they should go. Do you believe that parents should be motivated by and express love towards their children?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, did Jesus love sinners?
Yes.
Jesus loved prostitutes. Jesus loved the diseased. Jesus even forgave the people who were nailing him to a cross and sticking a spear through his side. Jesus is love, to a large degree, right? And if there is hatred, it is only hatred of the devil, and even though you may hate the sin, you love the sinner, right?
Yeah.
So if a child is selfish, whose fault is that? I'm not saying you were selfish. I'm just saying if a child, in theory, in general, is selfish, and roughly what sort of age do you first remember hearing that you never thought of other people?
I'm not sure. It just was. was trying to come up with an example of the kind of thing, and that
No, that's
that
the first one, because that's a big one. That's defining you as a narcissist.
that sounds like a kind of thing I would hear from them, but I don't know when. I don't know when I
But there
would have
wasn't a
heard that
time when I said, I love how thoughtful you are towards other people, and then later they said, you only think of yourself. So I assume it was pretty early, or there wasn't something that you got worse from.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if a child is selfish, whose fault is that? Well, you say, oh, but children are naturally selfish. Okay, well, let's say that's true. Whose fault? Whose job is it to teach them how to not be selfish?
Parents.
Right. If a child is given some horrible swear word in place of the word tree, and they point at a forest at the age of 4 and say, my gosh, that's a whole lot of horrible swear words, whose fault is that?
Whoever he heard the word from.
Yeah, whoever taught him that the word for tree is horrible swear word. Is it the child's fault? No, of course not. Because parents train up the children how to be in life. And so if your parents weren't religious, I could personally forgive them a lot more the string of zeros they had in the other areas, right? The friendships, the education, the college stuff, the how to talk to girls and dating and right. But because they were religious, they were continually exposed to the fact that the parents must show love to their children and train them in great detail and depth on how to be in the world to be virtuous, right?
Yeah.
So they have no excuse. And for a parent, is there anywhere in the Bible where it says, if your children behave badly, you have no responsibility for that as a parent?
It's not there, I don't think.
No, it's not, because it would be a complete contradiction to it's the parent's responsibility to train up the children in the ways of the world. So, unfortunately, because the highest thing that your parents scored on was that you have to love and train your children, and they neither loved nor trained you, that makes it infinitely worse, just to be clear. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not, this hurts.
I know, and
It hurts to look at and think about.
I get that, and I'm sorry that it hurts, but it's better than insomnia. The insomnia is there because you're replicating some of your parents' behavior, right?
Could be.
Well, if you haven't criticized your parents, you're doing what they do. That's why we criticize. That's why we go through the pain of criticizing our parents so we can change our behavior. If I never doubt the direction, if I can never criticize the direction I'm driving in, can I ever turn around?
No, because you don't know you're going the wrong way, or
Right.
you won't say
I think I'm not criticizing the direction I'm going in. I can't possibly turn around. All right. So none of this quite adds up to enough of this foggy language. So tell me a little bit about your older brother and why he got so much of your parents' attention, because I bet you there's something in that that fills the gap to me in your response versus the stimuli.
One thing for me in specific, not with my sister, but they had my brother, and then my sister is 2 years younger, and then I was 5 years after that, and I was unexpected. I was surprised.
Sorry, how do you
Which
know that?
because they said, they told me I was a surprise.
But why,
I don't
sorry,
know
why
when.
on earth would they say that you were unexpected, unplanned, and a surprise, which is another way of saying they didn't want you? Like, why on earth
I
would you tell a child that?
I don't know. I have been I have been upset with them about telling me that part for a while. I did
Okay, don't
realize,
laugh.
like,
Don't
that's
laugh.
not.
No, don't laugh. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You've
I
heard enough call-in
realized, like,
shows to know that you're not supposed to laugh, right? When there's really,
I re
that's terrible. It's a terrible thing to say to a child. We never wanted you, but you came along anyway. We never planned for you, right? Or did they refer to you as a happy accident and we were thrilled you came along?
they they said the they said things like that. Yeah. It's just it I've told my friends, yeah, like, if you ever have a kid who's, not kids who are, planned, and kids who aren't, like, never tell them. Like, don't there's nothing, that information doesn't do them any good. Like,
Oh,
it's not
it's
gonna go
harm.
nowhere
No,
good.
it's pure harm because it's telling the kid we didn't want you.
Also, I didn't some not something that affected me as a kid because I didn't know this, but, like, for some reason, my sister was going through, like, we were looking at some of the old papers and stuff, and my sister was looking at, like, the record when I was born, and, like, she was like, "Well, I don't know what this charge here is. Like, here's, like, birth and delivery, and then there's this thing." And then
Oh,
she's
it
like,
wasn't Nick.
"Oh, I think
It
she,"
wasn't Nick, was it?
and she's like, "Oh, I think she had her tubes tied."
Oh, tubes tied. Okay. Oh gosh. So
And
they
I'm like,
really didn't want
and
another. Okay.
yeah, and I didn't know that when I was a kid or anything. That was only fairly recently, but that just kind of adds to the whole
Why are we laughing again?
awful.
Like you were trying to invite me into this kind of genial comedy shit.
Because otherwise, I'm a little afraid I might be crying.
And what's wrong with crying? Thou shalt not bear false witness. Did I get that quote wrong? Laughing about something that's very sad is bearing false witness. It is kind of a sin, if you don't mind me saying so. So, what was going on with your brother that he took so much of your parents' attention?
He's. I remember when I was a kid, he's mostly outgrown this, but he was allergic to everything. And, like, today, that's not that hard to figure out. But, like, at in the, 70s and 80s, trying to get trying to, get food for a kid who couldn't have regular bread and couldn't have eggs and couldn't have this, like that, like, trying to attend to that kind of thing would consume a lot of attention. And then that, he was the oldest, and then by the time to the my sister, and then by the time I got there, like, attend trying to work around this kind of thing took a lot of attention, I would guess. um and he also I think there were also some kind of developmental issues they were worried about. I don't know specifics about that, but I think, like, he had issues that focused a lot of attention on him, and it just kind of,
Sorry,
even,
sorry, just to be clear. So the food allergies, there was stuff he could eat, right?
yeah.
So it wasn't like they had no idea what was going on.
I'm just kind of guessing at how this pattern came
No, no,
about.
I'm just, please listen to what I'm saying. Please listen to what I'm saying or what I'm asking. So they had a pretty good idea what was going on. I mean, what was some of the stuff that he could eat as a kid?
There, I there were lots of things. I guess the thing is like the things like eggs. He was allergic to eggs, and those are in a lot of things. And he was allergic to regular bread.
Okay,
And
I
so they had,
understand that. I understand that. You already told me. I mean, not about the eggs. But there was stuff he could eat, right?
yeah,
So they just give him that.
yeah.
So help me understand. I mean, I get that they have to make some separate food, which I understand is a challenge. But you can just throw a pot of whatever he can eat. I don't know, brown rice and beef or whatever, like bone broth, whoever, right? So you just throw a whole vat of that stuff together. You put it, sort of cook it all up on a Sunday night, and then you've got enough for most of the week, and then you just have regular meals for everyone else. So I'm not saying it's unimportant, but it wasn't like he had crippling seizures and they had no idea what the cause was, and he was biting his tongue half off. Like, it's like, okay, so he can only eat X, Y, and Z. How is that so time consuming? And I'm probably missing something. So just help me out.
I don't know. I was just I've tried. This is just trying to figure out myself, like why were they so focused on him
Well,
that
no, but
both me
I
and my
asked why
sister.
I asked why your brother consumed so much attention, and you said because he had allergies. And my daughter doesn't really have any allergies, so I don't understand that world too much. So I'm trying to figure out why that was so time consuming, because that's why you told me it was time consuming, right? So I'm just trying to understand why you told me it was time consuming, because I don't understand the world of allergies very much. So maybe I'm missing something obvious about why it was so time consuming.
I guess just that they were very worried about his health and worried about like him getting the wrong thing. Like we were at, I think one time my
Oh, like if he
mom.
shares a kid's school lunch or something, right?
Yeah, and so like you have to put up these special little barriers around him, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, you tell him you
And
can't share kids' food.
yeah,
No tradesies, right?
and like one time mom had made, when he was very small, I was told that mom had made herself some eggs, and like he went and he got up, got a plate from the counter and was shoveling mouthfuls in them, and then broke out in hives for like 2 days after that. And so
Sorry,
like
so his allergy effect was hives?
I don't know if that was it. I
Sorry,
think that was
but
what
hang
they
on, you
said.
just told me hives. What do you mean you don't know that was it? I wasn't there.
I don't know if that was all. I just remember that was what they said about.
Was like, because some people can be killed by bee stings, right? Their throats closes up, and if they don't get their EpiPen or whatever, right? So was he in mortal danger from food? And I don't say this sarcastically. I mean, some people are.
I don't know how bad it was. I don't know whether it was the kind of thing that might have killed him. They never. I never. I
Well,
don't
did he
think.
have an EpiPen?
No, I don't even know if that was a thing then. Guess
I
it probably
think
was.
EpiPens have been around for a while.
Okay.
Let me, you know what? Let me just look that up, because I don't want to be unjust, obviously. Give people, why wasn't he assigned antibiotics in the 17th century, right? I get it. Okay. Let me just ask our good old friend, Dr. Grok. Come on, give me my mouse. You can do it. All right. I have big monitors, so I never know where the hell the mouse is. All right. Let's find out. Again, I want to be as fair as possible. Okay, so Grok. When were EpiPens introduced? Now, of course, we don't know. Just because they were introduced doesn't mean that they were common back in the den. Oh, no, that's fair. EpiPens introduced in 1987.
That he would have outgrown
It would have outgrown.
by
Okay,
then.
that's fair. So I'm glad that we looked that up. I thought it was earlier, but that's another reason why we look things up, right? So I want to be fair. Okay. All right. So he had allergies. You don't know how bad they were. One thing that was reported was hives. And of course, hives aren't fun, but as far as I understand it, they're not exactly fatal. And at what age do you know did he outgrow these things?
Uh, Probably by the time he was a teenager.
Oh, so he was in his 20s by then.
No, by the time he was a teenager.
Oh, he was a teenager. Sorry, I thought you said I was a teenager. Okay, my apologies.
No.
All right. So teenager is, again, very imprecise, 13 to 19. Roughly when?
Probably by the time he was 13.
Oh, so by the time he was
I don't.
13 and you were like 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So for, your first 8 years, there were these allergy issues with your brother. What else do you think might have distracted your parents from? Did they both work?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And do you know who took care of you when you were a baby? Did your mom stay home with you?
I'm not sure how long my mom had off for me when we were a baby.
Well, no.
Actually,
hang on. She had off as much time as she wanted. She's not a slave.
Well, the other thing, right at the time, shortly before I was born, like that month, my dad got laid off from his job.
Right.
And so they would have been like scrambling.
Well, no, hang
my
on.
parents.
Your parents are intelligent, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's why you save your money for these kinds of emergencies, right? Plus, if you get laid off, was this, it's in a Western country, right? It wasn't in like Timbuktu or Ghana, all right? So if you get laid off, normally you get quite a bit of salary, right? Months, sometimes even more, like 6 months, or like you get quite a bit of pay when you're laid off. So you'd have savings, you'd have pay. And so I'm not saying that it's not alarming or anything like that, but they would have had savings and your father would have had a pay. And then, of course, there's unemployment insurance. There's lots of things that can help. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your mother immediately has to go back to work or very soon after you're born. Because then you have to pay for childcare. Well, I guess did your father take care of you if your mom went back to work fairly soon?
I'm not really sure. I
Do you
don't
know
remember.
how long? Sorry, do you know how long your mother did stay home with you?
I don't know.
Okay. But do you have memories of her staying home, or who took care of you then? Who was your first memory of caregivers or people who took care of you other than your parents? If it was people other than your parents.
There was a friend of the family. We called her Aunt Blank, and she wasn't actually my aunt. I later found out, but yeah, a friend of the family who watched all of us when we were little kids.
Like all three of you, or that was like a neighborhood daycare?
It was the three of us. It wasn't a general daycare. It was not.
Okay.
And so it was more personal than that.
And do you know at what age she was taking care of you, or like photos or anything like that may have given you some clues?
I do not know.
Okay. So, do you have any early memories of your mother being home during the day? I mean, I guess you wouldn't know what day of the week it was if you're so young, so it could be a weekend or something, but okay. So, what's the closest you remember feeling to your mother or your father?
I remember my mom would sometimes read to me before bed, and I can't have been. I'm trying. I remember the place this happened, and I'm trying to place that chronologically because we moved a few times. And I would have had to have been like 8 or 10, and I remember that, and I remember that mattering to me.
Okay. 8 or 10, your mom was reading to you at bedtime.
Yeah.
It's kind of old.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of the age. Yeah,
That's not a criticism.
It does sound
I'm just,
old.
Not a
It
criticism. I'm just a
does
bit surprised.
it does sound old. That's why I was not sure. Or just it could have been just sitting down with me before bed and praying with me or something like that.
Okay. Now, did you ever have a conversation with your parents about deficiencies that you felt they might have had as parents?
A little bit, yeah. I'm sorry, that's more vague. Um, I remember one time being it's probably late teens, early 20s, and you know, being mad at my dad and telling him like, you never told me this stuff about, sex or anything like that. We never talked about that. Like you tried, but you were horribly awkward, and I'd been through sex ed in school, and so I just like they told us all this stuff, and you just left it. And I remember I told him I was mad, and I felt I I was missing something.
And how old were you when that happened?
How old was I when I said that?
Hmm.
The When I told him I was mad about it, or when he tried and it didn't go anywhere?
No, sorry, when you talked to him about it.
Late teens, early 20s.
Okay. And what happened out of that?
I think he gave some excuse about why it didn't really happen, and you know, and he felt bad about it, but didn't really explain.
So he fogged.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's maybe where you get your fogging stuff from to some degree as well, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like you don't quite know what happened, but nothing really got sorted, right?
yeah. It didn't. I didn't have any kind of satisfactory resolution. I can say that.
Got it. Okay. Now, what do you think might be going on with your own kids that might be troubling you?
Um, Both me and my wife work, and I'm not happy with that.
And how
I
old are
don't
your
know how.
kids?
13, 7, and 2.
Wow. You guys got a spread. Okay.
Didn't try it, uh, but yeah, that's how it
No,
worked
we
out.
don't want to hint at accidents. Okay. Um, so your youngest son is 2, and who takes, sorry, is it his son?
Yes,
Okay. And who takes care of your son?
his grandmother, my wife's mother.
Ah, okay. And how is she with your son? Do you guys agree on parenting as a whole?
I'm frustrated with it. I'm not I'm not happy with it, but I don't feel like we have better options.
And what are you not happy about?
Um, she's she can't get around much. She can't, um,
Oh, she's got
and so
mobility issues and she's parenting a 2-year-old boy?
yeah,
Yikes.
yeah,
I assume he's a clamber monkey like all boys are at that age.
yes,
Okay.
and so one consequence of that is that his 13-year-old brother is enforcing a lot of that, which he's frustrated
Sorry,
about.
enforcing a lot of what?
Like, he's having to chase his younger brother around, uh, because she can't.
Sorry, but when is after school, but before you and your wife come home?
Oh, they're home. They're homeschooled.
Oh, homeschooled. Okay, got it. Okay. Oh, so some of the sort of chasing after stuff is happening for your son, like your eldest son.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's having to And I know he's kind of frustrated with that.
Okay. And why do you both work? Hang on, how can you be homeschooled if you both work? So your grandmother is not only parenting but homeschooling too?
Um, we have him work on assignments, and then we check on them, basically in the evenings.
Sorry,
And
13, did I get this right? 13, 7, and 2?
yeah.
So are they teaching themselves?
The program we have, it has like video lessons, and
So they're
so
not being homeschooled, they're being computer schooled.
yeah.
Okay, that's not the same thing, is it? I mean, they're on computers, right?
Yeah.
So they don't actually, I mean, it's just video. It's not even a person.
Yeah.
Is that what you want for homeschooling?
No, I don't know.
Well, why doesn't your wife stay home and homeschool?
She makes more than I do,
Well, why
and
don't you stay home and homeschool? I mean, how are they getting, and I know it's a big common thing with homeschooling. So how are they getting their social life?
um when we have them visit with friends of ours, who the one of my friends who has kids, when we can, and goes both ways. They'll come over here, sometimes we'll go over there. it's not it's not as often as it should be.
Okay, so we're back to Falkland again, right? It's not as often as it could be. What does that mean?
It would be great if we could do that, like,
How often?
once a month or so.
So your kids are
Not
getting
much.
socializing. Do they roam the neighborhood? Do they play with other kids in the neighborhood, or where are they getting their socializing?
Kind of not. They're like,
Bro,
there's
what are
I
you
know.
doing? What are you doing? Come on. That's not right.
I know.
Well, I don't know that you know. Honestly. What do you know? Tell me what you mean by I know.
I know this isn't
Don't
what they
say it's not
need.
ideal. That's not honest.
I know this isn't what they need. I don't know how to reshape our life. Like, I don't know how to cut
Okay,
out an entire
don't listen.
income.
You're a smart guy, right?
Yeah.
Don't go rubber bones on me and don't try and pull this crap with me. Honestly. If somebody offered you $10 million payable in 6 months for you to find better ways to homeschool your kids, are you saying, no, I'm sorry, I got to walk away from the $10 million, man? Because it's just, I can't figure it out. Like if somebody said to me, Steph, I'll give you $10 million if you can win a gold medal at the Olympics in gymnastics, I would have to say, you're going to have to keep your $10 million because that's never going to happen, right? So when you say, well, I don't know and I'm rubber bones, it's like, that's not true at all. You know exactly what to do, right? Someone needs to stay home and raise these children. And it's not going to be a frickin' screen. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah.
Okay. All of our ancestors figured out how to survive the Black Death, the plague, the war, the famine, terrible weather, marauders, war, right? Slaughterous, rapes, God knows what, right? Your ancestors got through the Civil War, First World War, Second World War, and you're saying, well, I can't possibly figure out how to actually raise my children. Come on, man. Don't go rubber bones on me. That's just not true. Say you don't want to, but don't say you can't. We're the second richest generation in human history, And you're saying nobody can stay home with the 3 children you voluntarily chose to have and keep? Come on. Like, I don't even know why people try this stuff with me. I don't know. And I almost respect you for trying, if that makes sense. But it's nonsense. Tell me the practical steps you could take to stay home with, because it's not just about staying home and teaching your children so they're not stuck on screens all day, and especially because there's an age gap, it's a considerable age gap, they don't even play with each other that much, right?
Yeah.
So they're isolated. And what did you tell
Yes.
me about your childhood? In my room, right?
Yeah.
You're up in your room reading and isolated, right?
Yeah.
How dare you reinflict this isolation on your children? You know exactly how tough it is, right?
Yeah.
So, what are the practical things that you could do to solve this? Because being home is not just about teaching them, it's about setting up a community, getting to know the neighbors, about making sure that they have social life, which, I mean, and this is your teenager is absolutely going to need this, like beyond oxygen. Teenagers need peers. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right. So, what could you do to facilitate this, to make this happen? Your wife makes more than you. Remind me why you can't stay home?
Where
Just tell me.
I feel like in terms of money, we're just treading water as it is.
Okay, come on, man. How many cars do you have?
2.
Okay. Do you necessarily need 2 cars if one of you is staying home?
If something happens to one of the kids, we'd need to be able to take them somewhere.
Yeah, that's what Uber's for. That's what ambulances are for. I get all of that, but it's not absolutely necessary. I grew up with no car in the household, not even one. So that's possible, right? Do you live in a house?
Yes.
Okay. What's your square footage?
I don't know off the top of my
How
head.
many bedrooms?
3 bedrooms.
Okay. How much property?
Uh, less than an acre. I don't know.
Are you in the city, the suburbs, or the country?
Country.
Okay. And do you own the house?
Yes.
Okay. So you can sell the house, you can move to a smaller place, and you'll have more than enough money to stay home. And you get rid of a car. I mean, I'm just saying these are possibilities. Say, oh my God, we can't do that. It's like, bro, our ancestors lived in frickin' mud huts, okay? And you're a Christian, right?
Yes.
Are you supposed to choose money over what's best for your children? Is that the way
No.
of Jesus and the Lord?
No.
So what would Jesus tell you? I mean, don't listen to me. What would Jesus tell you to do? Jesus
Prioritize my
commands
children.
you to sell everything you own, give the money to the poor, and follow him. He's not even asking for that. Sorry, I interrupted you. What would Jesus say?
Prioritize my kids.
Absolutely. Are you supposed to place material stuff over what's best for your children?
I guess the other concern with the other thing that worries me about that is like where we are, the general region. Like if you live in a poor neighborhood, like there's not really poor and safe.
No, but that small town.
Yeah.
Get an apartment in a
Which
small town, you're safe. I'm just spitballing here, right? Okay, give me a rough sense of you don't have to give me exact figures, but roughly what's your combined income?
um I think a little over 100,000.
Okay. So she makes like 60, you make like 40. Is it that kind of thing? Or 70-30? Or
More like, yeah, 70-30.
okay, so you in your 40s, you make $30,000 a year full time?
That's the other thing, like,
And did you answer
because
my question?
I I'm not full time. That's like I try to stay. I
So
I work.
hang on. Your kids are being raised by computers and a geriatric grandmother for the sake of $30K a year? Are you kidding me? How many hours a week do you work?
Uh, Depending on the time of year, uh, maybe 30 hours, something like that.
You make less than $20 an hour.
Yeah, because I'm trying to, like, if I were to, I'm trying.
What are you doing as a man in your 40s, your mid 40s, with 3 kids making $30K a year? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to follow this.
Because I'm trying to get what time, like, to advance in terms of, like, money and position. I would have to put more time in. Like,
No,
I can't,
hang on. But why do you have so few skills after a quarter century or more in the workforce that you're pulling in less than $20 an hour? I mean, have you made more in the past? I mean, I'm just trying to follow this. Do you pay the grandmother anything?
no, she's staying with us. So that's,
Well, yeah, but she's also a primary caregiver to 3 active children. Do you think she should get paid? How old is
she's,
she?
um, uh, mid 60s.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad. I thought she might be 80 or something. I don't know, right?
No,
But she's not able to do much?
no.
Is she ill? Arthritis, back problems? Like, what are we talking here?
Yeah, like, she's, she can't, she can't walk. Like, she can walk, but not, like, she can't, run around or things, or she can't
So she has
get around
significant
great.
mobility issues.
Yes.
Do you think that's the right thing to do? Is to kind of rope her into trying to take care of your kids when she has significant mobility issues? It seems a little exploitive.
We started, when we started this along, it was when we started this, kind of general plan, she was in better condition, and we just
What
kind
does
of
that have to
continued.
do with anything? Of course she was in better condition. People age. You got to make decisions based upon ill health and mobility issues. Is she in pain? When she moves around, is it uncomfortable?
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay, so she's kind of half crippled, and I'm sorry to say it so bluntly, she's kind of half crippled in pain, and she's in charge of 3 incredibly. Are they all 3 boys?
Yes.
Okay, so she's in charge of 3 energetic and active boys, and she's in constant pain and has significant mobility issues. And they're being raised by screens and barely see any friends. Bro, The hell are you doing? Come on. This is not right.
I know.
Okay, for how long have you known? For how long have you known that this is not right? Months? Years?
Years.
Okay, how many years? At what point did you first begin to suspect that this might not be the ideal way for your children to be experiencing life? Okay, and we've been talking for a long time, so if you're going to give me these endless pauses, it's not going to work.
I guess at least 4 or 5 years.
Okay,
I
so
know this
half a
is a
decade
problem.
you've known that this is not ideal. You brought another child into the mix, knowing that your wife's mother was not doing well. So for half a decade, you've known that this is not the way to raise your children. So why are you calling now? Oh, because it's affecting you, not just your kids. Because you've got insomnia. So now it's about you. It wasn't enough that it's affecting your kids negatively, which I would imagine it is. But now, because it's affecting you, you're calling. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. What about your wife? Does she have any concerns with the setup you've got going with your kids and her mother?
Yeah.
And for how long has she had concerns?
Probably about as long.
Okay. So why have you guys done nothing about it? What about your wife's mother? Has she expressed any concern about being in chronic pain, having mobility issues, and being in charge of a couple of kids half glued to the screen all day? I assume the answer is
About
no. What about your kids? Have they expressed any dissatisfaction and wanted anything different?
the oldest one, yeah.
And what does he
He
say?
he doesn't he doesn't like it when both his mother and I have to be at work because he
Okay.
says he's
Well, he's the primary caregiver in many ways because he's the mobile one, right?
and he says it's lonely
Right.
when both of us are away.
And how long has he been talking about that for?
In those terms, maybe a year or so.
Okay. So for you and your wife have been very concerned about this for half a decade. Your son has been complaining about it for a year. So why didn't you call before? Just because it didn't affect you in the way that the insomnia is? Would you say you're close
I
to your
don't
children?
Not as close as I want to be.
Okay, that's not an answer. More fog.
I did not like I want to be, no.
That's still not an answer. Okay, 0 to 10. Let's do the scale again. 0 to 10. 10 being you're real close with your kids, you enjoy each other's company, you get along famously, blah, blah, blah. They have an open line of communication with you. They can say anything they need to you and all of that. And you're there. They know that you put their welfare first and foremost and would do just about anything to help make them happy and so on, right? That's a 10. A 0 is, indeed, because it was your parents' indifference regarding your questions about girls and so on, where would you put yourself on 0 to 10 with regards to your children? And I would suggest being blunt about this, because they may hear this someday, right?
3, maybe worse.
Okay, so what's your final answer?
3.
Okay, so you give yourself a 3. So you're much better than your parents overall, right? Because they were 0, 0, 0, 0, 3, 4. And you're 3 across the board, which is much better. They came out to 1 and change. You're coming out almost 3 times better than they were, right? And I just want to make sure I understand your scale.
I might have to move it down to 2.
That's what I thought. Okay. What about your wife? Okay, no. Let's. How would your kids rate their closeness to you and their feeling that you put their needs first and foremost, and that you dedicate your life to making them happy and in reasonable ways? Where would they put you on 0 to 10?
2, 3, somewhere in there.
Okay. Right. Has that been fairly constant over the course of their childhoods, especially your oldest, or has that been better or worse at times in the past?
There, I feel like sometime in the past couple of years, in the past year or 2, I don't know what changed, but I feel like he and I started getting along better.
Okay.
I don't know, I can't point to a specific thing, but I just, like, it wasn't this one moment, but
So hang on.
just
So right now it's a 2, but in the past with your eldest, it was lower, like a 0 or a 1, because you're getting along better now?
I, it seemed like for a long time we just argue, like all we ever did was argue with each other.
Argue. And
And
what did you argue about?
listen, you need to do this thing. You know, you need to, clean your room. You need to work
Oh,
on
so
this
he should do
homework.
the right thing, but you're not doing the right thing, and neither is your wife. He should make sacrifices for the family, which neither you and your wife are particularly doing, because you need your $100,000 a year, right? So he was acting like you and your wife were, and that pissed you off. So you nagged at him rather than looking in the mirror and saying, what am I doing that I could improve so I can model better behavior for my son? You just nagged the shit out of him, right?
Yeah.
Right. You're modeling selfish behavior. And then you wonder why your son is not motivated to sacrifice for the family, right?
Yeah.
Right. So why didn't you change it over the last half decade? And you're going to have to engage in the conversation, these pauses and, right? It's not going to cut it, right? Why haven't you acted over the last half decade, you and your wife, to fix this?
I guess I just don't see, like, I don't feel like we're,
Okay, stop with the pauses, man. Jesus. I'm begging
I'm
you.
trying,
No, you're
I'm
just
trying.
censoring. You're just censoring. Why haven't you fixed it?
Because I don't like. We're not spending like. We're not trying to be rich. We're not
Then
trying
send
to.
them to school. Is school better than screens? And a half-crippled caregiver who's in constant pain? That's what I don't understand. Let's say for some magical, fiery reason, there's a giant moat between you or your wife staying home. Okay, fine. I don't believe it, but let's just say that that's true. Then why aren't they in school?
They have. He was in school for a little while. The oldest was, and he had he had uh, autism diagnosis, and he was like the school he was in. He was in a kindergarten, and they had like
Sorry,
25 kids.
why are you dropping this to me at 2.5 hours into the call? Is he autistic?
Some, yes.
Okay, and how does his autism manifest?
Um, it's not as bad now, but just he.
Okay, how does it manifest now? And why are you arguing with an autistic kid? And shouldn't he get more specialized help if he's autistic rather than be home with screens all day? Is that good? I'm not an expert, but is that good for autism?
I don't.
I mean, what does the specialist say is best for him?
He had he had speech therapy from the school when he was.
What does the specialist say is best for him as a whole? I mean, I won't get into any particular details, but I certainly know someone whose autistic kid is in pretty specialized educational situations. So what does the specialist say is best for your son? And do you have an autistic kid who's in charge of the other kids to a significant degree, to the point where he's complaining about being in charge of the other kids? Is the autistic kid the best babysitter? I don't understand any of this. What do you guys? What does the expert say? You got diagnosed with autism, and I assume that they came up with some sort of plan to help him, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and what was that plan? Just roughly.
I mean, he was in school with other kids, and it just that.
I get that, but there is plans. Let's say for some reason he couldn't deal with the other kids, right? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
They yeah, it we were really unhappy with how that was going, because it was him in a class of like 25 kindergartners, and there was one teacher and like one part-time teacher's aide, and it just.
Wait, so you're talking when he was
hated.
5?
Yeah, that was when we pulled him out.
Okay, so he hasn't been to school for 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you taken him to a specialist to ask what is best for him? This is a yes or no question.
Not since, no.
Okay, so for 8 years, he's been untreated, and there's been no particular, you haven't taken him to any specialist to get a plan about how to best help him with his autism, right?
Yeah.
So both you and your wife, does this seem like a good idea to you? Okay, I mean, that's sort of a rhetorical question. I don't know what your pause is there. Does this seem like a good idea? Okay, if you don't want to talk, we don't have to talk. I'm not sure if you're even still with me. Are you with me? Oh, did he go? He left? Oh, that's a shame. Well, I suppose I'll just record my thoughts. I suppose he disconnected. Perhaps his phone ran out of power. That certainly happened before. But obviously I've been doing this for a long time. I'm kind of shocked. And I'm obviously no expert in this, so all of this should be taken with no seriousness whatsoever. It's just my usual amateur idiot opinion. But this does not seem like the right course of action to me. Certainly, I think that the young man, if he needs to see a specialist, needs to get evaluated, needs to get some sort of plan. I would assume that being at home with screens all day is not particularly great. So, but again, what do I know? But I think it would be a good thing to get a plan going. And I think that that's where the insomnia is. I never really got the answer as to why he didn't, and his wife didn't act over the last half decade that they felt this was not great for their kids. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe he doesn't know the answer to that either, but I would assume this has got something to do with the insomnia. So I'm very sorry that we didn't get a chance to end the conversation, but I suppose, again, it could be accidental, or it could be that he recoiled from the conversation. I may never know, but for those of you who are out there, please just put your kids' needs first and foremost. An extra $30K a year is not worth not being there for your kids and letting screens and videos raise them. And listen, I mean, I have no particular issue. I know that there are a lot of homeschooling kids who use screens, and that's not the end of the world, but they absolutely need a significant social life as well as that. And they need constant conversation with their parents and all this, that, and the other. So, I mean, I know that there's some hoops that homeschool kids have to jump through in various areas. So I'm not completely averse to screens, and you can't teach your kids everything. I get all of that, but not just screens, and very little. He said once a month they get some socializing in, and that's nowhere near enough, in my humble opinion. Kids need socializing, particularly in their teens, as they get into their teens. So, again, I'm sorry that we didn't get to finish the conversation with this gentleman, but you just basically have to do what's best for your kids. I mean, I know that sounds like a real cliche, and most parents will say that, oh, we want to do what's best for our kids. We will do anything for our kids. Our kids are number one, and all that. But to actually live that can be quite different, and there's always options. Go to your ancestors and say, well, we can't possibly get by on $70,000 a year, which is above the median income for most of North America. And so the idea that you can't find a way to possibly survive on any of that is kind of incomprehensible to me. And, as a man, it's usually quite a good idea as a whole to try to make sure that you have some reasonable levels of economic value that you can provide, particularly if you have 3 kids, right? So, but you can get by on $70K, in my opinion. But and what your kids will remember is they won't remember all the things that weren't bought, but they will remember the isolation. And I would definitely try to avoid that with your kids. So, again, sorry for the mystery. Oh, he's typing. What's he typing? Hopefully not a whole bunch of cuss words, but he's probably going to tell me that his phone ran out of power. And we shall see. I'm sorry. My battery said 9% and then just went down. Oh, shut down. Okay. Well, he's down, and obviously I hope he'll keep me posted about what's going on. But this seems to be a pretty tragic situation, and I hope that he will get home with his kids and maybe get his son to a specialist to try and figure out the best way to move forward. And I wish you the very best. And I'm sorry to have heard this tale, but I hope some good can come out of it. So thanks everyone. freedomain.com/donate to help out the show. Really appreciate that. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.